Back to the channel, guys. My name is Gene Edwards. You guys are watching NHL Aftermath for September the 9th, 2023. How are you doing, my good buddy? It's been a week and a half. What's up? What's new? What's been happening in your life?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Not a whole lot's going on in my life, to be completely honest. It's been kind of a boring life. Nothing too grand and exciting on my end. Nothing too grand and exciting on my end, other than the weather starting to cool down out here, which is nice. So it's not so hot anymore.
Sammy, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. You well know about it, but our fan base doesn't know about it, and it will affect our programming. But I did finally buy a place at the age of 51. Well, almost 51. I am officially a first-time home buyer. I purchased it in Vernon, British Columbia. And obviously, it's going to affect some of our programming changes going forward for the next couple of weeks. But I am on top of the world. I gave my notice yesterday to my landlord. I was kind of like shaking as I was typing it. But yeah, he wished me the best and wished me well. So yeah, I get possession on the 22nd. So obviously, the next couple of weeks are going to change here. I'm just going to dive into that one screen here. So obviously, because of this changing, we will not be coming back until September 30th. Now, that is also tentative because things do arise for Sammy and me. But if everything goes as according to plan, we will be back with NHL Aftermath, and this will be the final segment of our predictions that we're going to do, and that will be the Pacific Division. We'll end it off as we're going to do the Atlantic Division tonight. Also, I'm going to be very busy because I'm going to return with Lubed for Season 3 on October 1st. That's the very next day. So I'm going to be a very, very busy guy. Well, I am already started because I'm already starting to pack up my apartment. If you saw the view of it, luckily I'm giving you the window view here because it's an absolute disaster right now with stuff all over the place from packing and that. But yes, I am officially a homeowner and quite pleased of that, to say the least. Let's get on to some of the stories that happened over the last week and a half. Obviously, I do apologize to you guys as well, as we were supposed to do a Thursday episode a few weeks ago, but I ran into some issues with the financing of that, and I had to scramble to get things kind of going, so I was unable to do that episode on the Thursday, but we're here. We're going to cover all those stories. Sammy, do you remember a few weeks back when we did our rules change?
Yep, I sure do.
Okay, so one of the rule changes, and I had to bring this to your attention, one of the rules changes that you wanted to see the NHL amend is the power play rule, where the power play does not go away.
Mm-hmm.
Did you realize that that rule was actually in the NHL and was disbanded in 1956 after the Montreal Canadiens were just wreaking havoc on players?
Yes, yeah, I did know that. I didn't remember it at the time, but I actually remembered it a couple days ago.
Yeah, you probably saw the same stuff that I saw on some of the YouTube channels. And I was shocked, but it was basically Jean Beliveau scored 3 times in the span of 44 seconds on a single power play against the Boston Bruins on November 5th, 1955. I think that was definitely where the momentum started to change, where the NHL said, hey, this is just not very fair for other teams. And honestly, if we did it in today's day and age with McDavid and Drysdale and what the Oilers' power play was last year, we could very well see the same thing. So,
Well, even in the '80s with the Oilers power play in the '80s, or the
yeah,
Penguins power play in the early '90s,
yeah,
it could have been horrifying.
yeah.
Or
So anyway,
or a number of teams. There's been a number of teams over the last 20, 30, 40 years that if they had an unlimited power play, it could have. Even again, the Flames of the late '80s were a very good team. The Oilers of the '80s, like I said, the Penguins, the early '90s, the Red Wings of the late '90s, early 2000s, even the Canucks at the beginning of the 2010s, their power play was lethal. Oilers right now, like it,
yeah.
there would be some
Oh,
devastation, some havoc being wreaked across the NHL. That's for sure.
for sure. And as you can see, we're talking about the NHL, but actually, a couple weeks ago, the WPHL has been formed. Its original six is slightly different from the original six of the NHL that featured the Canadiens, Maple Leafs, Boston Bruins, Chicago Blackhawks, Detroit Red Wings, and the Rangers. In the PWHL, it'll feature Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, and three US based teams Boston, Minneapolis, and New York City. So just a slight variance. Really, the only difference, well, other than Ottawa and Minnesota, but other than that, it's kind of still the almost close to the original six of the NHL. I got a couple questions for you on this there, Sammy, and they're one of them is going to be pretty sensitive, so I just want everyone out there to just look. We're just going to give you our thoughts and perspective. We're not taking one side or the other on it when I get to that question. But the first one is, why doesn't the NHL follow the similar league structure like they do in the English Premier League? Having the ladies represent the same team. So basically, have the New York Rangers ladies version, the Edmonton Oilers ladies version, the Minnesota Wild ladies version.
Um,
That I think would help if they really want to help grow the game for the ladies. You need to, I think, piggyback off the NHL a little bit more. What are your thoughts, Sammy?
well, I know that the National Hockey League is backing the PWHL a bit. It's not like it's fully under their umbrella, or the NHL doesn't own the PWHL. But I know that they are helping them in some way. Um, why do they not have an affiliate, a women's affiliate team? I don't know. I mean, I guess just the Women's Hockey League in North America probably just wants to be their own thing, wants to be their own identity outside of the National Hockey League. I mean, the NHL has its own structural and organizational problems too. And I think the PWHL just wants to be its own entity, wants to do its own thing, wants to see if it can survive on its own. As women's hockey leagues have been pretty hit and miss and have struggled pretty heavily over the last, I think, 20 years since really the first one was formed, and like right at the end of the '90s or beginning of the 2000s there when the first one was formed. It's been pretty hit and miss over well since then. It's gone through like three or four. This is like the fourth iteration of a women's hockey league, professional women's hockey league. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, maybe if it was a direct umbrella under the NHL, maybe it would do better. Probably would, but yeah, I don't know.
yeah, you have a good point. Maybe they do want to have their own identity, and I never really looked at it from their angle of things. I was looking at the angle of the NHL, Gary Bettman, and how they can make this successful because it seems like now I don't follow it that much, so I could be really out to lunch by saying it.
Mm.
But I've seen the ladies' English Premiership, and it looks pretty legit. Like it looks like they're packing pretty decent sized stadiums and that. Like I don't know. Like it's obviously they're obviously not going to be paid like the men. Not now. Maybe down the road they will once they build it up. But yeah, I think if they were to do that, but then again, it's like you said, they might want their own identity, or the NHL wants to kind of make sure that there is that separation. But I think it would be a neat idea. The other question I have for you now, this is the one that's going to be a little bit of a political kind of thing, but we saw in the World Cup of Soccer, the Women's World Cup of Soccer, I better emphasize Women's World Cup of Soccer, that Team Canada had a transgender athlete playing on that team. How will this be governed in the PWHL?
I don't know if they've talked about it at all. I don't really want to talk about this too much. I don't think the PWHL has really talked about it yet, at least to my knowledge. I haven't seen anything about it. In my opinion, it should be biological women that play in it, because if you have a biological man, they're just automatically at a more physical advantage, just because biological men are just structurally stronger, biologically and physically stronger as a body. And so having a biological man out there muscling these women around, even though there's no body checking, there isn't any hitting in the league, just the overall strength of a man, a biological man pushing past women, is a huge advantage and would not be very fair to women. And I think that would cause a lot of maybe concern and upheaval pretty quickly. You're already seeing that a little bit in the States and other women's college sports and university sports in the States. There's been kind of a bit of an uprising lately that I've seen from some female athletes who are protesting against biological men competing with them. But that's my thoughts, I guess.
I want to tail back to a couple sentences ago of what you said. There's not going to be any hitting in this league?
No, there's no
Oh.
hitting. There's no body checking. At least last time I heard, I think I heard this on a video from the hockey guy, but I think he mentioned that there's no body checking, there's no hitting, really
Ooh.
in women's hockey at all. Like even if you watch international competitions, like there really isn't any like body checking. Like yeah, there'll be some like maybe a little bit of pushing and shoving because like you have to be able to steal pucks or to be able to body your way around the ice, but there's no
Yeah.
like hitting. There won't be any like you're not going to see Sarah Nurse come flying across the ice and like level Hillary Knight. Like you're not going to see that, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what I mean. There isn't any like hitting. There might be like like body checking, but there isn't going to be like hard hitting or hard body checks. It'll just be a little bit of
Okay.
muscle around, push around, but that'll be about it. There's no actual hitting.
Oh, okay. Well, you're definitely educating me on a few fronts of this. Maybe I should have done a little bit more research on it because I didn't realize that was the case. I also, like I said, when I talked to you about why don't they kind of piggyback off the logos and all that kind of stuff, I never really thought of it. Yeah, maybe the women want to do their own thing too. So, a few things that I could have maybe done a little bit better bringing this into light.
Well,
But
even
yeah, thanks.
The New York women's team isn't necessarily going to be in New York City either. They're talking that they're looking at playing in Connecticut. The team could be in New York City. The team could even be in New
Correct.
Jersey
Yeah.
or Maryland or something
Yeah.
surrounding New York. It might not actually be directly in New York City.
Yeah. Right on, Sammy. Good man. Good take on that. All right, Sammy. Let's dive into the next story, which is looks like Patrick Kane may make a return pretty quick here. And yeah, I was looking at cap friendly of some of the teams that could afford him. You got Chicago, which he could very well wind up back in Chicago and go back to them. They got over 12 million, nearly 13 million in cap space at the time I did this. I don't know, and this was about a week ago. Buffalo Sabres with 8.7 in cap space. Nashville. Some of the other conversations are Anaheim and San Jose, but what has come to light in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 days is a strong possibility of him going to Detroit
Mm-hmm.
to be reacquainted with
DeBrincat.
DeBrincat, correct. My two questions for you, Sammy, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring this back into the fold. Remember, we used to do two questions on the old. Uh,
Your old
so I
lube
want to bring
on
this,
lube.
yeah,
Yeah, two
back
questions
on
for
lube. So
Sammy. I remember.
we're gonna bring that into this onto this channel. So two questions for Sammy.
Okay.
Will Patrick Kane be on an NHL roster opening night? And
Okay.
what jersey will he be wearing?
Opening night, no. He is ahead of schedule from what I've read. He is ahead of schedule on the surgery that he's had on his recovery. But he's still the timeline he originally had was like 6 to 8 months. Now he might be more like 4 to 6 months, but that still takes us into November, December territory probably. So not opening night before the All Star break. We could see, or even by Christmas break, we could see him on an NHL team for sure. As who he is with, I have heard strong push from Detroit, like you said. I've been seeing that everywhere lately. I've been seeing a lot about Detroit. Even and again, like I mentioned, the hockey guy earlier, he doesn't really get into rumors and things, but he actually talked about it the other day. So to me, if he's talking about it, there might be some real stock to it. The other team that I think he might go to, just out of my speculation, is his hometown, which is the jersey that I'm wearing, which is Buffalo. That I could see him going to the Buffalo Sabres as well. They're a young up and coming team. He might want to go to his hometown to finish off his career and maybe try and get his team back into prominence. I don't know. Detroit's also a young and up and coming team. So he could go that way too. If he was on Detroit, I think that could be. I might have to change my predictions a little bit for the Atlantic Division, but not much. But I think that he could help boost up the standings just a little bit for sure.
Oh, for sure, he would definitely help Detroit out. Um, for me, I think it's gonna like I know you hear Detroit in the mix, and I know he wants to maybe play with DeBrincat, but for some reason, I think he will wind up in Buffalo.
That's what I've thought all summer. That's what I thought at last trade deadline. I thought he would go to Buffalo or anybody, but
Because this is now he's going into the twilight of his career. Why not end it in the city that And he loved the Sabres. It's not like
yeah.
he followed the Sabres as a kid. It
It was
wasn't
like
like he
Tavares
followed.
going to Toronto, right? Or
Yeah,
even Domi signing with the Leafs this
yeah,
offseason too, right? Like
yeah,
that was his team. That was his dad's team, right? So
yeah. Well, but the Leafs also have that a lot more historical stuff about them for the historical draw, I guess, if you will.
yeah, I mean, fair
So yeah,
enough.
we'll see where he winds up. I think in December. I think it's going to be earlier than that because he's apparently skating already, which is quite remarkable. They didn't expect him to be skating. So and he's saying that he's really doing it without pain and discomfort. So that's
Yeah.
huge.
I still don't see opening night, but if that's the case
I
right
don't see
now,
opening night
then
either. Right.
then maybe he's back by American Thanksgiving, or maybe Canadian Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I don't know. Canadian
Yeah.
Thanksgiving's like a month
Yeah.
from today, actually.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
doubt it because that's actually is before opening night. But maybe by American Thanksgiving or by December, he could
And you
be.
know what? What kind of sucks, Sammy, is every year I go out to uh, the Young Guns tournament in Penticton, and because I'm
Mhm.
moving this year, I'm going to have to bypass it, which kind of sucks because I love bringing that content to the show. But
Yeah.
so this year, with me moving and that, I unfortunately won't be attending that. Anyway, Sammy, let's move on to the Atlantic Division and our thoughts and how this will all break down. Uh, don't lose my cue cards. All right, Sammy. I'll let you lead off there, buddy.
You're gonna let me lead off, eh?
Let you lead off.
All right. At the 8th position in the Atlantic Division, I have the Montreal Canadiens. Um, I'm assuming that's probably who you have too. I'd be shocked if you didn't have Montreal at 8, to be honest, but they're still in the midst of their rebuild, maybe on the tail end of the rebuild, maybe in another couple years they're contending for the playoffs or they're in a playoff spot. They didn't really make it. They might have made like minor improvements in the offseason, but they didn't really make a ton. I think another year with Sam Montembeault growing as their starter, I think it'd be good. Another good year of Suzuki. Caulfield is healthy. I think that they'll make some steps this year for sure, but I don't see them being. They'll be a competitive team, but they're not going to be a competitor, if you know what I mean.
Okay. Well, I am going to shock you. because I got Detroit in 8th.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I still think this team is rebuilding, but I think losing Bertuzzi at the deadline is going to really hurt this team, just because of all the things that he brought. And then I looked at who they brought in. Not so much. I mean, okay, sure, they got Klim Kostin brought in, uh, but I don't.
DeBrincat.
Hey, DeBrincat,
DeBrincat.
yeah, that could be a good thing. If they get Kane, he's going to shoot this 8th place ranking shoots up to probably 5th for me, or 6th. I would say 6th.
Yeah, I don't know
But
if
right
I'd
now,
shoot him
yeah,
up to 5th, but a couple places for sure.
yeah, I would shoot him up maybe as high as, well, it depends, and it depends how he plays too. I mean, we also got to keep in mind we're also thinking of Patrick Kane from what he's done, and we got to think of
Yeah,
where he's at, right? So
yeah,
I got them
exactly.
in 8th. I got them in 8th. Sammy,
Eighth
who do you got
place.
in 7th?
7th place, I have Detroit. Um, this is gonna be the interesting part here for my next couple picks. Montreal. I always, when we do these predictions, I like to have rough point estimates of where they might finish in the standings. So I had Montreal about around 72 points, 74 points. Detroit, I have at 90 points because I think they're going to be competitive. They're going to be They're going to be good. I think they'll be fighting kind of for a wild card spot in the hunt for the majority of the season. But then I think there'll just be that little bit of a separation between them and like third, fourth place in their division that gets those other teams in the playoffs over the Red Wings. I don't think they're going to be as bad as you might think they are. Like I said, I think they will be competitive. I think they're going to make major strides this year compared to last year. Um, I think this, in my opinion, this is probably the last year they miss the playoffs. I think that next year they make the playoffs. Again, if they make the right moves with Steve Yzerman, he'll make the right moves and get the team into the playoffs. But I think this will be the last year where they're on that fringe, and then I think next year they'll make that stride. Because again, like yeah, they added guys like JT Compher, Alex DeBrincat. I think they'll be good. Another year with Ville Husso as their starter, get more experience under his belt. I think will be good for them.
And again, it's that swip and swap, because here's where I have the Montreal Canadiens fitting in
Yeah.
7th place. Last year, their power play 16.1. Ouch. Their
Mm-hmm.
penalty kill 72.7. Ouch. So
Yeah.
those are things that they have to address. But and that was that those were actually Shannon, the hockey guy, that actually did his review, and I took those notes from his episode on the Montreal Canadiens. They're young, they're an upcoming team, and they got the right coach behind the bench to give them that offensive funness, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about Martin St. Louis is, does he know when to put his foot down and say, "Look, man, clamp it down, start playing proper 200-foot game." That's where he's openly admitted saying that he hated systems and all that kind of stuff, and how he was wanting to allow them to have creativity and all that kind of stuff, which is all fine and dandy. But creativity doesn't keep pucks out of the net. You got to be able to have a united front in front of you and stop that presence from coming through as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I got them in 7th. Um, they definitely lack in size, but as far as the skill goes, they're coming along. They're coming along good, and I think you can really see this team in the next couple of years definitely move up a few spots compared to 7th. So that's where I got
Mm-hmm.
them. Sammy, give me your number 6 pick, bud.
So my number 6 pick is the Boston Bruins. Um, yeah, I have them dropping quite a bit, but I also still have them around 90 points, 90, 92 points, somewhere in that range. Also, probably just barely missing the playoffs. And again, Boston's one of my favorite teams, and so it pains me to pick them to miss the playoffs. But I just I don't really think they improved really much of anything this offseason. Their defensive core really didn't change that much. I mean, like they lost Dmitry Orlov. That was pretty much about it. Their defensive core didn't really change overly that much. Their forward core, though, I mean, Nick Foligno, I don't really think is that much of a loss. You bring in Milan Lucic, that's pretty much an even swap. But they got rid of, but Taylor Hall's gone, and then of course you lost Bergeron and Krejci. Like who's your number one center now? Pavel Zacha, Charlie Coyle. Like that's I just don't think those guys aren't. They're good. Those are good forwards for sure, but they are not suitable center, first line, second line centers. I think for Bergeron or Krejci. So I honestly like Allmark's a good goalie. Swayman's a good goalie, but I think they both Allmark especially I think overextended beyond his usual playing capabilities. I think, in my opinion, I don't think he's going to be nearly as good as he was last year. So I see them being like a competitive team, kind of same thing with Detroit, fighting for a wild card spot. But I think they'll just kind of miss the playoffs.
I have to admit, I'm kind of shocked that you have them that low, and you're going to be shocked about this one here. I got the Panthers. Yeah,
I'm not overly shocked.
despite the historic run that they had last year, I just think that their exits outweigh their add-ons. I think losing the Stahl brothers, yes, they're old, or especially Eric Stahl. He's probably going to be retiring. But I think Mark Stahl was a very strong defensive presence. So that leadership is gone. However, we also saw what Matt Tkachuk brought for leadership in last year's playoffs. And it's very evident we know who the leader of that group is now and who will be the captain of that team. Is he the captain right now? He's not the captain
No,
right now.
Barkov's the captain.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm pretty sure that we'll see Tkachuk at some point in time. We're in the sea in Florida. Yeah, that's right, Mark. Yeah, I can't wrap my head around how close they were to not making the playoffs last year and how they just managed to squeak in. And then, yes, they had a hell of a run. They went to the finals. But yeah, I see them slipping this year and this year not catching the breaks that they need to actually make the playoffs. So they're not going to be in the playoffs this year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for my fifth place, I have Florida. So I have
You're not
I
that
have
far
the
behind
Panthers.
them.
Huh?
You're not that far behind from me then.
Well, I have the Panthers in fifth, hovering around 96 points. I kind of same thing. Like, yeah, they went on a crazy run for sure, and it was fun to watch. Like, it was a fun run to watch. They knocked out three of my favorite teams along the way, so I wasn't too happy about that. In Boston, in Boston, Toronto, and Carolina, knocking three of them out was not overly. I was not overly enthused by that, but. Their run, it was fun to watch, seeing how the team really came together. Bobrovsky kind of returning to his Vezina caliber form. Kachuk, the way he was playing was incredible. And the team just overall, they didn't necessarily score a ton, but defensively, they were sound defensively, which I think is what helped them. But then, of course, they get to play against Vegas, and Vegas exposed all of their defensive weaknesses because nobody was stopping Vegas last year. And Vegas, for as good as Florida's defense was, Vegas's is just better. Um, I have them just kind of narrowly missing the playoffs as well. I just don't. I don't see the faith. I don't have the faith in them that other people do. I also agree with you. I think their losses outweigh the additions that they brought in. Yeah, I don't know. So I've seen some people have Florida in like first, second, or third place in the division next year, and I'm like, how do you have them that high? But hey, we could be total fools next year. Who knows? Like by the end of
Well,
the season, we could be made
guaranteed we'll
fools.
be wrong on some of them for sure because it always
Yeah,
happens that way.
for sure.
I got the Sabres in fifth. This is an up and coming team. There's no question. Love the fact that like what they have for their defense core is just freaking amazing. Powers, Thompson, Touch, and Dowling, just to name a few of the players that are on that team. And what I saw from them this year was definitely kind of like a kind of a rub it in your kind of face to what's his face?
Jack Eichel.
Jack Eichel, correct? Yeah, couldn't think of it. It felt like that. This team, what I saw last year, that team was more successful than any of the Eichel years. It seemed like it. It just seemed there was, even though they might have not made as many points, they just seemed more united, more. There was a good feel about it. There's a good feel going around in that team, and I think there's a good feel in that locker room now. I think there was a lot of negativity during the Eichel years. So I got them in fifth, and definitely another up and comer. Again, parity in the league is definitely proving a point because you see this like cyclone swivel of from eighth to third to first, and you're seeing it year after year now of teams, coming in and out. And yeah, I got the Sabres in fifth. You?
In fourth place, I have the Ottawa Senators. And I actually have them as the second wild card team. Hovering around 98, 100 points, somewhere around that range. I have them as the second wild card team. I do like the addition that they made this year. Yeah, they lost to Brinkett, but they brought in Vladimir Tarasenko. I'm not necessarily saying Tarasenko's an improvement on DeBrincat. I don't think he is, but because DeBrincat's younger. But Tarasenko, I think with the right line mates as well, I think can still easily pot 30, potentially 40 goals. Probably be 60, 70 point guy. I think again. I could be wrong. He could only put up like 20 goals and 50 points. I don't know. But I think with the right line mates, if he's on a line with like Stützle or Brady Tkachuk, I don't know, he could easily pot, I think, 30, 40 goals again. Plus, I think Eunice Korpisalo is a really good goalie. I know there's some other people that don't necessarily have as much trust in him as I might, but I really like Eunice Korpisalo. I think that he is an upgrade on Cam Talbot in net for sure for Ottawa. I like him a lot. A full season with Jacob Chychrun on the Senators, I think, is great. Jake Sanderson's just signed his new contract extension with them, so I think he's going to be pumped up and ready to go. A new season with Brady Tkachuk, where I think he's only going to be better again this year. Tim Stützle, I think, is only going to be better as well. That leadership with Claude Giroux. I think they're going to be a good team next year. I think they're going to be a very competitive team. I do see them making the playoffs, which makes me happy because I like the Senators. And I think it'll be fun to see them, that young team in the playoffs. I don't necessarily think they'll go far, but I think they'll make the playoffs at least, and I think they'll be a fun team to watch this year for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I have them coming up here shortly. But yeah, I'll definitely give you my take on the Senators. Right now, I got Boston in fourth. I too think they're going to take a hit, but I just can't see them hitting as much as you got them down. You got them heading sixth, I think.
Yeah.
I can't see a team falling that far from grace, but I could very well be wrong. It is going to their center is massive, massive hole down the middle right now, and that could very well take it to as far as you had it. They need to address their needs like now, like either that or hey, pull the plug and let's do the rebuild. Like, yeah, I won't dispute your sixth place call on them. I just think it's a little bit far for them to fall from grace that much. So I'm going to put them in fourth.
Okay.
You're in third place, Sammy.
Third place is the jersey that I'm wearing. I have the Buffalo Sabres in third, sitting around just over 100 points, I think, in my opinion. Again, I like the improvements they made in the offseason. I like this team. They barely missed the playoffs last year by like a point. They were like a point behind Florida. They barely missed the playoffs. I think Tage Thompson again this year is only going to be better. I think Alex Tuch's only going to be better this year. I think Devin Levi is probably their starting goalie next year because the few games that he played last year, he was fantastic. And I think that they could easily throw him in. Maybe not necessarily the like for sure first like or starting goalie. Maybe it'll be a 1A 1B situation. But I think he definitely plays. I think he could easily take over the starting position for sure. And like you said as well, when you mentioned Darlene and Power, I think another season with under them, Owen Power I think is only going to be so much better this year as well. I think Darlene could be a Norris nominee this year as well. I really like this team. I'm excited to see what they can do. I know you mentioned talking about sticking it to Jack Eichel. I think Jack Eichel stuck it to them because he won a cup, but Buffalo, when you look at the rosters that they had with Eichel, it wasn't like they had a good roster. Like their rosters, the 4 years that Eichel was on that team, 5 years, their rosters were bad. Like they were bad. Like there was no like, oh, I'm surprised this team made the play or missed the playoffs. No, their rosters were just bad. Like every
That's
year that
that's
Eichel was
true.
in Buffalo, their rosters were just bad.
That's
Like
true.
it just,
Eichel was the
they're-
one man show in the on those
yeah,
years. 100%.
he was the one man show, and they just didn't build a team around him. The rosters were just bad, and so I feel bad for Jack Eichel that how he was treated on his way out of Buffalo.
Uh-huh.
I think that he was a great player. He left the team because he wanted to get that back surgery that he needed, but the Sabres organization wouldn't let him get it. So he got traded out of there, and then Vegas let him get it. And then look at how he played in the playoffs last year. He was 20 plus points in the playoffs. Was a major key player for Vegas to get them that Stanley Cup. Like, yeah, like I just how Buffalo treated him was very sad. But the Sabres got a good package back for him, which has helped them get to the point where they are now. So I have them in third, and I think they're going to be a very good team this year, and are only going to get better.
And going back to that playoff run too, I remember that one game against Florida in the final there where he got hit so weirdly, and when he was coming towards the bench, he was shaking his head very. I was like, oh my god, like
Yeah,
I thought maybe whatever that surgery happened, maybe something happened there that because it was a weird movement that he was doing when he was coming to the bench and trying to shake off. I don't know. It seemed like there was something wrong with his neck. It wasn't just a head shake to try to clear the cobwebs. It was like more like
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I was very concerned there when I saw that. I got the Ottawa Senators in third.
Okay.
I like what they're doing. I really like what they've done. Corpusalo, yes, I'm a fan of him. Uh, I always have. I think my one buddy in Edmonton, I compared notes to him, and my one buddy in Edmonton was like, he's not that great, but I am a fan of Corpusalo. Uh, Tarasenko added to the lineup. Yeah, they lost to Brinkett, so it's a little bit of a downgrade. But the fact that they still have Kubalik, they have McEwen, Jacob Chikrin, and then obviously brother Brady has got to be inspired from what he saw Matty do last year. So look for
Mm-hmm.
him to just have a freaking stellar of a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like what Ottawa's doing. I like the 23-24 Canadian contingents. I think we're going to see four, possibly five teams make the playoffs out of the Canadian side of things.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. But I stand by it. They will be a playoff team this year. I'm gonna stand on that one. Make sure that is your number two pick, Sammy. I think you and I are gonna be very similar here in the next two.
Yeah.
Oh,
If
we,
not
we
if
know it.
not
We
the
know
same.
it's two teams, and they both start with T.
Yeah. I have. Well, just because it's 1 and 2, not to spoil anything, but I have Tampa in second and then Toronto in first. Is
So
what
do
I
I.
have. Yeah,
So
that's
do
what
I.
I figured as much. Tampa Bay, obviously, they're still a good team. You know, they still when you have Andrew Vasilevsky as your goaltender, you got Victor Hedman on the blue line, Stamkos and Kucherov, and Britton Point up front. It's hard to knock against this team. I do think that they are going to be on the decline a bit now. I do think so. I think we might only see them in the playoffs for another couple seasons, and then maybe they'll be kind of turned into a fringe team, and then probably in the next 3 to 4 years they'll be entering a retool or a rebuild. But that's my opinion. But for now, they're still a good team, competitive team. I don't know how far they're going to go in the playoffs again moving forward here. I mean, I have them playing Buffalo in the playoffs, so who knows there? The battle between Andre Vasilevsky and Devin Levi probably. Who knows, right? But we'll see. And then Toronto in first place. They just, I think them overall. They did. I think Toronto was a better team this year than they were last year. Adding, I love the addition of Tyler Bertuzzi. I love the addition of Max Domi. And who else did they pick? They picked up
Ryan Reeves.
Ryan Reeves. Yeah, I think this is a good team top to bottom. The defensively, I think they're still very sound. Like, yeah, they lost Luke Shannon. I guess they also lost Ryan O'Reilly on the forwards, but I just think overall, like, I think they're still a very good team. I think another year with Ilya Samsonov as their starter, I think is only going to increase his confidence, and he'll play. I think he'll be better this year as well. I think they're just going to be a great team this year again. Like, it's hard to knock against them right now. I think they're an easy 54 win team, 115 points. Like, I think that's easily where they'll sit. Matthews Potts 50 goals, 100 points, Marner 100 points. Like, they're gonna be a fun team to watch. And then again with the additions of Domi, Bertuzzi, and Reeves, they're gonna be a gritty team too, which I think is what they needed against Florida. They didn't have that pushback against the Panthers. They had enough energy. I think they just needed the monkey off their back to get rid of Tampa, and Tampa was tired from 3 straight cup runs.
Mm-hmm.
So Toronto was able to exploit that, and Vasilevsky did not play well in that series. But I think Florida, they're coming off an incredible high, beating Boston. They fly in against Toronto, and Toronto just they couldn't come up against Bobrovsky. So I think this year they're a better team. I think they're going to be fun to watch. They got that grit that I think will help them come playoff time. So guess we'll see. Guess we'll see.
That's true. And my side of things, very similar to what you had to say. The one thing I did toggle Tampa back probably as high as fifth at one point in time when I was actually thinking through things and all that kind of stuff.
Mm,
One thing that they have in favor of them is, like you said, this team isn't going to be as tired. This team went out very early last year. They're going to be well rested going into this season. That's
yeah.
going to be massive for them.
Yeah.
Plus, this team always seems to find a way after losing TJ Miller, Andre Palat, and then most recently Alex Killorn. Those are big pieces, but they still find a way to be competitive no matter what. Maybe that's the John Cooper effect. I don't know. And yeah, you can't rule out Stamkos and Vasilevsky for goaltending, and then
Kucherov, Hedman,
Kucherov,
Point.
Hedman. Yeah, like those guys are all lightning bolts of their own, right? So I definitely keep them in second. I see them deteriorating though. I see them now slowly getting worse and
Yep.
worse. I think this will be their last season, and before it's basically started to call it a rebuild. Or, I
Oh,
mean,
you think it's going to
retooling.
be that quick, eh?
Well, maybe not after this year, but in the next couple of years, I would say for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
With Toronto, exactly what you said. What they needed is that grit, so that guys aren't taking liberties on Matthews, on Marner, on Tavares. Like, despite that injury that happened to Tavares 2 years ago in the playoffs, where it was totally accidental, do you like, regardless, and that was an accidental thing from who was it? It was who was it when he took the knee to the head there? It was a total accident
Like,
thing, and it was I know his name. I can't think of it right now. But anyway, yeah, that kind of stuff. The ice is going to open up for them. Bertuzzi's a talent plus toughness.
mm-hmm.
Ryan Reeves is going to answer the bell. Like, yeah, look out Tampa or look out Toronto. They might actually do the cup this year. They may
Ho ho.
win that Stanley Cup.
Ho
They
ho.
may. Uh, you know, I don't want to call it because that's basically saying the Oilers won't, and I want the Oilers to. But Toronto may. I think Austin Matthews is going to have a good year here. But this team is going to have that contract, the way it's structured and signed. It's definitely a contract that's favorable to Austin Matthews, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't really. That's the one thing to me, and that to me shows that it's more of a me thing, and that's the only concern I have with Toronto. Well, I want the money, and but I want to be the highest paid player. So that to me, I just would like to see what's going to happen when Draisaitl's up for his contract and McDavid's are up for their contract, because we did see in years past when Mike Modano played, he took a pay cut to kind of keep the Dallas Stars together that were the Stanley Cup champions of that era. I
Yeah.
would like to see one of these mega superstars say, "Hey, let's all take a haircut here to keep our team together." So it would be nice to see, but
Still no comparison to if you look at Joe Burrow in the NFL just signed like a $260 million contract. So
no, I know, and
it's
and
crazy,
it's
crazy the difference in payment
oh
between
yeah, well,
leagues. Just thinking
Austin
about it.
Matthews is the highest NHLer, and it's the 113th, I believe, in the NBA for the highest paid players
Yeah,
of what he's
probably.
making.
Yeah.
So yes, you can't compare, but at the same time, let's be honest. If I had $1 million a year, I'd be laughing. Just one.
Dude, give me 500,000. I don't give a crap like that. Yeah,
Exactly.
100, actually, even 100 grand these days can't really do much. But give me a quarter million, 250,000. I'm
Yeah.
fine. I'm
Yeah.
happy. I don't
Yeah.
care. Pay me 250 grand. I'll throw the puck on the ice. Like I
Yeah.
don't give a crap. Like I'll hand the guys the water bottles. Like that's fine with me. Like I doesn't matter. Like that's fine.
Now, yes, their expenses are a little bit more because of their training and all that kind of stuff, but still, yeah, I'd be pretty fine too. I would like Jesus, man. Property taxes alone on their places are more than I make in a year.
Probably. Especially considering a
So
lot of
yeah.
those guys have not just their homes in the cities that they play in, but will have
Mhm.
beach homes in in Orange County or in Kelowna in the Okanagan Valley or whatever. Like these guys are in Vancouver on Burrard Inlet. Like these guys have expansive, fancy houses in these crazily expensive places,
Yeah.
and just yeah, yeah,
But hey, you know what? We're the fans that fuel the fire, right?
it's true,
So
it's true,
if we're gonna keep fueling the fire, we can't really complain.
it's true.
Anyway, Sammy, this is a oops, I don't even have your image up there, Sammy. Let's see if I can fix it here. Real quick here. Yeah, I just had your icon there. I'm gonna add you here to scene. Okay. I thought I did it all. You're gonna be a little bit smaller here, but oh well.
Oh, also,
Anyway,
now I
Sammy.
cover half the screen.
Hey.
Now I
Yes,
cover like half the screen.
you do. Another episode with little hiccups as always, which is awesome. Again,
Ah,
guys, we are waiting for comments to come in from you guys. We would definitely answer them live when we are on. We will be back on the 30th with another episode number 15, and that's going to be whatever news and tales from now till then. And Lubed will start up on October 1st. Both going to be coming out of my new studio, and can't wait. I am pumped about everything that is going on in my life. Sammy, he's going to try to have a little bit more
well,
of a funner week, a
we
week
hope
that
so.
is.
We hope
Caleb.
so. I do have
Okay.
some things planned this week that I am very excited about. So we'll
Okay,
see.
well, that's good, Sammy.
Yeah.
All right, Sammy, get us out of here, man.
Yeah. Well, we thank you guys for tuning in and watching. As always, click like, click subscribe, share this around with your friends. If you enjoy watching a couple buddies sometimes make fools of themselves and talk about hockey, then you're in the right place. But yeah, we enjoy doing this. So like I said, like, comment, subscribe. We'd love to hear from
And
you.
and doesn't Sammy have a great voice now that he or voice, not vice, a great
Free
voice
City.
voice that yeah voice now that he's got a nice new microphone.
Sure
Right
do.
on, Sammy. Right on. Okay, guys, we'll see you in a couple of weeks in the new studio. Take care. Have a good one.